Another exciting day, and we are back again with our podcast. Exciting feedback. And like we always say, it's important that we get feedback because we do this for the people out there. We don't do it for ourselves. And that feedback helps us to shape the direction of this podcast. And now I'm beginning to call it the Forbes podcast. And I'm sure that name sounds juicy. And at this point, let me welcome Forbes, CD Crispin Daka, my expert analyst. Crispin, CD, how have you been?
I've been excellent. I've been excellent. Exciting times. And thanks to the Zambian people, at least we had an election. I know it's always, but at least, by and large, it's been, we've lived up to our peaceful transition and going through such events, which are always a problem. And for business, this is what could impact us adversely if we don't have stability and certainty in terms of transition. Thank you very much. So excited to be here.
Excellent. I mean, just to talk a little bit about that, I think a lot of businesses had some fundamental uncertainty. Others are trying to take certain decisions. Others planning to disinvest. Others holding their investments. So it had a lot of effects on the decision making in terms of where executives were sitting. Your thoughts about how now the business can accelerate their decision making. Just how can you weigh in on the way forward from the time that you had elections and post-election period?
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, and we actually even felt this. So there are a number of decisions which were more or less like just on ice. So it's because for me in business, the answer is not the issue. Whether it's a no or a yes, it doesn't really matter. But I just want to know whether it's a no or it's a yes. That's why even when it comes to the issue of sales, I'm never too attached to whether the client is saying, I agree or I don't agree, but we were sort of in a state of limbo because, yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons. But this is also just a testament of now going forward, we are giving more confidence that whatever happens, we are, by and large, a very peaceful nation. And that counts for something, especially in the investment environment. It really counts a great deal. So I really want to thank and congratulate all of us, all the Zambians, in how this has gone. I'm really very, very proud of Zambia.
Excellent, CD. And as a business podcast, we'll be taking keen interest in the, obviously policy direction of the country as the president-elect takes oath and, then starts a journey for the next, 5 years. I'm sure I'll be taking keen interest. And one of the things that we do on this podcast is to talk about the policy pronouncements in terms of the major issues affecting the economy and how the economy is likely to be impacted in the next 5 years. We can only wait for that time and to get into the details. But back to business of the day. We've had a couple of podcasts, an exciting journey from, the lender to the borrower, the risks associated, and many other interesting, topics. How do you sum up in one sentence about this journey? How do you sum up the journey, CD, so far?
No, the journey has been exciting. It's been exciting for us to share, and our goal really is to help businesses scale because we know that the engine for growth for this country is actually through entrepreneurship, is through businesses, but not small businesses. We are talking about businesses that are scaling. In a lot of our partners that we've been talking to, especially who are willing to support the growth they want to participate in the growth, import substitution, for instance. All of them, the biggest issue they are looking at is, we've got the money, but we want projects. We want people who have ideas, bankable ideas that we can invest in. I was just listening to a podcast. One of the excerpts from the Africa CEO conference that was held in Rwanda about three months ago. The rallying cry there was, business is the driver of the growth. Business is what will execute. So scaling is very important. Growing to a very sizable level is extremely important to ensure that we have the impact and even take advantage of the opportunity that, like all the economic opportunities that you're talking about, that are on the table. Because right now the opportunity has never been bigger. We've got SI 68, which gives sort of a captive, and there's something that usually is not even talked of too much, but in the procurement, whatever, there's preferential pricing as well, which is the 15% price differential over whatever, like for locals, which favors the locals. So we find that all these policy announcements are just opportunities. Now, businesses, we now need to go. And for me, the more businesses we can have that are, big businesses, we're talking of doing $1 million and above as a major component, then we'll change this economy. This economy is likely to change. The opportunity is there. And this is the journey that we've been on, trying to contribute in that space, in saying, look, if we want to do that, we need capital. And one of the capital elements, and this actually even happens to be what would even attract equity finance. It's pretty much the same issues that we're looking at right now. The issue of being bankable. So being bankable is not just for getting a loan, but it's also for attracting equity partners who can come and join you.
Excellent, great stuff. Talking about scaling, for you to scale, you have to gravitate from depending on people to depending on systems. Depending on people can be a huge risk. Now let's discuss and delve into this detail of, from the risk perspective, what are the risks associated with dependence on people rather than systems as it?
Excellent. For me, it's one of the areas where it's one of my exciting spaces to be, and mainly because I'm a systems person, and that's even my training, my orientation is about systems. So forget about consistency without systems. Why? Because as human beings, sometimes we are impacted by so many other variables other than what we are doing. So even the best employee that we have is likely to, at one point or another, because of what's going on maybe in their private life or everything else, they are likely to be impacted and not do exactly what they need to do. But the customer doesn't give us that much leeway, because the customer actually punishes the issue of inconsistency. So if you over-deliver on a client and the next time they come, you under-deliver, then you have lost that customer. They've even said that actually, a good experience, a customer will have a good experience, and maybe they'll tell one or two people. When a customer has a bad experience,
Yeah.
they will tell the whole world.
A lot of people, yeah.
A lot of people. So that's why that's the first thing. But for me, fundamentally, why is that important? It's important to think of a business being driven by systems and not people. It's mainly when it comes to the business owner, the entrepreneur, because then we end up being the limiting factor for growth. If we are depending on our ability to deliver everything, that's what they call hustling. We can only do it for so long. At some point, we are going to be the people that are going to be the bottleneck to growth, which means we can't scale. We can't scale, for instance, to get to consistently having $1 million plus businesses if they are all very dependent on the business owner. So that's why we need systems, because you need systems so that you can then scale. In fact, there is even a philosophy from Dan Mateo where he says, don't employ people to come and grow the business. No, employ people to come and run systems, which should then grow the business.
Yes.
So that's the thing. So for me, if you want to have a scalable business, a business that will scale to millions of dollars, then you need to create systems. Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's very critical, actually. Yeah.
Let's look at the potential, risks associated with a firm depending on, people rather than systems, operational, paralysis. You talk about loss of knowledge, single point of failure. You depend on this person. You have no systems. When this person is run over by a car, you probably, the business, it comes to a standstill, executional delays, and you are
Yes.
a proponent of execution, information silos. Just talk through some of those risks and put it into perspective before we get into what sort of systems we can put in place to ensure that we don't depend on people but systems.
Absolutely. And you very ably articulated from whatever else you've brought out there. At the end of the day, if you are depending on people, then everything else rises and falls to the level of the person. Now, and for growing businesses, it's even much more it's much more critical and very frustrating because we've also gone through the issue of being like growing businesses, working with them, and also being a growing business. One of the most frustrating things is this: as a small business, usually the kind of people we are not going to get the already made people, because those people are usually too expensive to be absorbed by the business. So usually you go and get people who otherwise are not ready for the job market.
Yeah.
And what happens? You pour yourself into teaching this person how to do something. Yeah. But because you are pouring into the individual and you have not created the system which they should run, it doesn't matter who it is. What happens is a year or two, these people actually gain more value in the marketplace and they become attractive to bigger players than to your competitors who are bigger than yourself. And what happens? They come and give them an offer and they poach them. And there's no hard feeling. I mean, the issue is some of these people are given an offer that you can't afford. And this is where now most entrepreneurs, we have what I would call empowerment, training fatigue. because we train people, they come through, they stay with us 1 year, two. Just when they are now able to deliver, somebody comes to poach them, then they go. Then you start again,
The process, yeah.
and that's why then the growth then doesn't even come through.
Yeah.
So that is on the side of the people, especially, and you even discover, unless you touch something yourself, you find that the output is not up to standard. Then that way, then you now become the actual bottleneck. So this is why it's very important as a philosophy to have everything systematized. Okay, so that then people actually know that it's by nature. People go. The only person who has loyalty more than anybody else for the business is you, the owner. The other people, they'll always come and something else will come up and they'll go. And there's no hard feelings. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. Yeah. So that's why it's important to have that mindset of building something that runs on systems. And down the line, actually, when we now talk about some of these avenues that are not being exploited in the Zambian context, like for instance, going to the stock market as an opportunity for accessing, growth capital. You can only do that if you have built a business which can operate without you and is system driven. They call it building it as if you want to sell it. Yeah. And in fact, in any business, what we sell is not the product that we are selling. No, that's not what we sell. What we actually sell is the system, the recipe of how we are able to deliver to our clients. And that's what systems do. So that's why that's very critical to have that mindset of saying, I'm not just building this so that I'm freer, I'm building this as if, I want to sell it. And that's the only time it will actually even be called an asset that you can leave for generations to come. Because what are you going to pass on in terms of the business? If you not build the systems, then that business will die with you. Immediately we die, we're all gonna die at some point. You die and the business dies with you. But if we're going to say, look, I'm investing my time in this and I want to create an asset which generations can benefit from, then it has to be a system-driven business. So if nothing else, all those are the value drivers of why system thinking has to be top of the agenda of the business owner. That everything has to be system driven rather than at individual driven.
Excellent. And well put, CD, because it ties into things like you have a well documented, process. You've got training across the teams, pretty much all the teams you can move a resource from tax, take the resource to audit, take the particular resource to, CFO, and they'll be able to perform almost at the same level because they've been exposed, across, different function. Automated workflows. I think this is why you come in. You're an expert of, systems, and I think in this respect, I cannot help but talk about now with AI. I think it's made you automating systems pretty easy. Centralized information is something that we have. We have a central depository. We don't want someone to go with a laptop home, but to have this work stored centrally, so that if this person is not there tomorrow, we'll still continue. And then you talk about succession, planning and matrix. Just a quick overview, just to complement the good point that you made, CD.
Excellent, and very well put. All those are systems, like the information repository and retrieval, the issue of, and like you said, automating. So the best way to do with a human being is let them be people who run the system, let everything else be run automated. And now with AI, it's never been easier to do. It's never been easier to do because everything else, pretty much every process right now can be, you can automate it, or at least a significant part of it can be automated, so that, you know, some of these decisions don't always have to come to you as the proprietor. They can actually make very, very high quality decisions. Just to sidetrack a bit, I've got a brilliant young cousin of mine. You know, the way he's using, we worked with him just quickly, so that he can implement a bit of some of. He's in automotive and panel beating repairs.
Mhm.
You know, what's happening now is that, especially on the repair of motor vehicles, and all they are doing is they're getting pictures, they're getting whatever, what kind of, you know, they get the part number, they get this is the problem we are having from the vehicle, and it's able to give them a diagnosis and even alternatives of what they should do and try and do, what they should try and
That's
what they should change.
interesting.
It's very interesting.
Interesting.
And you know, it's at that level. So now what I told him was, put this in a small video, and everyone else, before they do anything, let them go through the issue of the video. And sometimes we overcomplicate the issue of systems because we think systems mean, you know, an ERP and
Submitting.
something.
Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
Things like checklists. That's a system.
Yeah.
Before somebody does anything, let them tick through and make sure that, you know, number one, number two, number three, number four, it's all in place. Then, before something is delivered to a client, please do, you know, like for pilots, that's all they do. You know, pilots, even the most experienced pilot, they don't just get in and and fly the plane. They will sit there, the
Yeah.
captain, and especially usually it's the co-pilot, you know, with telling the captain this and this, check this, check. The captain is the one who's saying, and then the other one is saying, check, 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 check. They check everything else. We're good to go.
Yeah.
All that is a system. So that's the thing, like even for growing businesses, it's just having this thing is, how do we raise an invoice? This is step one, this is step two, this is the checklist to make sure that, how do we follow up on an invoice? This is what we do. Then you can give somebody else. Oh, and now with even the issue of video, just record yourself doing it, so that when somebody comes, this is how we do it. Then they run. That is the system. So for me, it shouldn't be something that's really complicated. It's just, you know, we need to make sure that whatever we do in the business is documented. Yeah. And that's what becomes, and it's easily retrievable, like you said, to give anybody else, so that if they want reference, no, just check on that. Then they check, then they can execute. At least then you have consistent output no matter who. If somebody can't run the system, then they are not the right person. They need to be fired. You get the one who is willing to run with the system. Yeah.
But Cindy, this is quite right and well put. But this is the argument I've seen over the years, where people, you know, come out and say, I'm irreplaceable because I'm the only one who knows how to post in this ERP, how to generate the trial balance, and who knows where there are misposts. So they are still out there, and the people are speaking to a huge number of people that believe in the people being important than the system. So they are 80% people driven and 20% system driven. Your advice to such businesses that still depend on people rather than systems?
Flip it. Flip it. So if you have, first of all, starting with yourself as the business owner, because usually you know everything and you touch everything. Always try and make sure that you touch something once, only once. Yeah. So there's a philosophy that they call, there's, you know, some young man who says in business success as an entrepreneur is you need to differentiate between what he calls MWDs, minimum wage duties. As the owner of the business, you should not be able to, you should not be spending your time. Your biggest resource is time. And it's time with who? Time growing the business, time talking to clients, time, you know, finding new suppliers, time looking at which other products can we bring in. That's what you should be spending time on, not on issues of raising an invoice, raising whatever. So he calls these tasks as MWDs, minimum wage duties. They need to be done, but they shouldn't be done by a very valuable resource. So these duties only, yes, they need to be done, but therefore only do them once. This is how I do my invoice. Step one, I do this. Step two, that time invested is then now get somebody who you can pay to do that task at that level, because there will always be people who are either entry level or whatever, who actually, for them, that's good value. Yeah, that's good value. That's how you now build the whole system up.
Like
In terms of
buying back their time.
Buying back your time. Exactly. You need to buy back your time.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, I really subscribe to that. The issue of buying back your time. Then you delegate all your lower level. And how do you know which tasks to give? There's a simple formula which I found very effective to see what is the value of your hour is to get the total money that you receive from the business, total, including not just what you get out as salary, but everything else that the business does for you, total. And then for the year, and then divide that by 2,000 hours. Why 2,000 hours? We're just saying, okay, look, average work week is 40 weeks, and then we're looking at maybe 50 weeks with 2 weeks vacation. Then you divide your whatever you've earned, divide it by 2,000. That gives you the value per hour. You can now evaluate most of these tasks. And the rule of thumb is you divide that number by 4. 25% of that number is what you can afford to invest in low-level tasks. And therefore, all those tasks which are around that 25%, say your hourly rate came up to 100 kwacha, for instance, then you can just translate that 25, that's 25 kwacha. Yeah, 25 kwacha is pay, and then something takes per hour, something takes 3 hours to do, then it's 3 times that, that's 75 kwacha for that task. That's what you can pay. And then, of course, most of these things you have to sort of bundle them up. And you can get, so can you get somebody to come and do this? Just you can, and even for outsourcing, that's how you can do your outsourcing, like especially like for your admin. You can come to people like us in terms of fractional CFO and then say, guys, I want this task done, but what I can afford is only this much. You know, there are a number, you know, including us, who are certainly going to go for such a deal, so that, because some of this delegation is not just with your people. Some of it you can outsource it, especially if it's a bit specialized. Just outsource it to somebody who can do it, you know, on a much bigger base, and can do it much more quickly and probably has developed those tools. You just outsource that so that then you can focus on your key issues in terms of focusing on growing the business.
Excellent. Excellent. I know it's when it's juicy and it's interesting, time flies, and you're almost coming to the end of our program. Just in summary, CD, people versus systems. Your take and your advice to the business, world out there, and what role we can play as more Zambia CFS to ensure that people, focus on systems, or organizations focus on systems rather than people.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, so absolutely. So for me, I think the mindset for every business owner, every entrepreneur has to be system first, people second. So don't think about the people before you think of the system. Don't think of recruiting anyone until you have a system. And what we mean by system, just a step-by-step checklist of what needs to be done, which is written down. And now you can even do it on video. You can just say, this is the first thing, this is the first document that I get, this is what I do, this is the next thing that I do with it, this is the next thing. You can even do it on a platform like this one, like Zoom, where you have the camera and you put on your record, and you record your step by step of how to do something. That's when you can now go and get somebody who you bring in, who you tell. And for me, the best sometimes is to tell them, can you please tell me what you understand how this is done? They explain to you, you can see, and then these are not like static. These are things which you improve on, because systems change, certain things when you implement change, or you took certain assumptions, but have that. Why is that critical? One, remember that what you are building is not just, what you're doing is not just selling things. You are building an asset. And an asset can only be defined as such if it can operate without you. If it's going to operate with you, then you don't have an asset. What you are is you are the asset. Yeah, then it means you become the asset to the business, and not the business
and
running on its own
the asset, the
as an
liability.
asset. Yes, and it means even when selling, you can't sell. You can't sell a business that has no documented systems or a documented way of how to do something. So for me, what I would say is it's of paramount importance, and the benefits are immense, because one, you are building, even if you don't want to sell, you are building an asset that the children can, and the children's children can inherit and build on. You are, yeah, so, and also, should you decide to sell, that's what you'll be able to sell, because they'll look at you and say, look, what's the valuation for this business? This business has been built such that on a consistent basis, it can do so much. Oh, okay, so it can produce this. So everything else it's producing there, it's all because of systems and the systems we've put in place. And how we can help is that we can help you start small. So for us, we are scalable. So we've got a fractional CFO team that comes in and helps you, help growing businesses actually document most of these systems. And then, of course, we are leveraging a lot of tools so that then we can support. We can even do the hand-holding to the people who have come to train them, and then we leave them to run with the systems. So these are your systems. So we can be with you. You tell us, this is how these things is done. We document it. We package it in a deliverable and something that you can keep, something that can be easily updated, and even help when you've brought in the people, we run with them, you know, for a few months, maybe 2 months or 3 months. And thereafter, we can now say, well, now they know how to run the issue, they can actually go with it. Yeah. So we actually start with the business owner, because we know that you are the the growth engine. Yeah. So other people are just going to buy into your vision. So you, as the visionary, we want to make sure that we relieve you. We buy back a lot of your time, you know, which you then give out to other people. And then it doesn't matter. Obviously, there might be some minimum minimum sort of level of knowledge for somebody to come and do this. But as long as they can read and write, and the most important quality when you have built a system-driven business is that the most important quality only becomes their willingness and commitment. If they are willing and committed, that's it. Then they can run the system, because everything is, you know, for lack of a better word, idiot proof. So they can just, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they move on. Yeah.
Excellent. City, like I said, time flies, but we'll put systems versus people, topic. So at this point, you have to come to the end of our podcast. And yeah, as usual, thank you so much for making time to share your wisdom and knowledge to the people out there, the podcast that I've now come to name the Forbes Podcast. Thank you so much, City.
Thank you so much. I'm extremely humbled, and the pleasure is all mine. I always look forward to this, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. So, to our followers on the podcast, thank you so much for following this Forbes podcast. You can share the word, you can spread the message. It is the Forbes podcast. We're back again next week at the same time. Thank you.
All right, over and out.
Cheers, CD. Thank you. How did you?